Falling Skies feels a little bit like one of those infomercials where if you order right now, they're going to throw in a whole bunch of extra bonus stuff, and if you're in the first 15 minutes, they're going to give you even more bonus stuff. Let's talk about it.
What does that even mean, Bowers?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review, and today I'm very excited to check out Under Falling Skies from CGE. This is a solo game, one player for ages 12 plus, take about 20 to 40 minutes to play, and in Under Falling Skies, they tried to make like Space Invaders, the board game. So essentially, there are going to be a bunch of spaceships up here which are going to slowly be descending down onto your city. Now, each city in the game is going to have its own unique special ability that you'll be able to use, and so the cities each have their own different feel and their own different flavor just based on those special abilities. But that's not all, folks, because you're also going to have your own unique characters in this game once you start digging into the campaign of this game, because yes, there is a campaign that they say will take you about 10 to 11 games to play. But there's more, because as you unlock the campaign, you're going to slowly unlock all 4 of the chapters, and each of the chapters is going to unveil new things, new gameplay mechanisms, and sort of things like that. It is not a legacy game. Everything can be completely reused. And even if you don't go through the campaign, you're going to want to unwrap and look at all the goodies and play with all the goodies. But this is the review. So let's get into the pros, let's get into the cons. So first, on the con side, the one thing that I know a lot of people are going to be disappointed with in this game is the story during the campaign, because the story is meh. The story barely comes across at all. It's nice that it's there and they put forth the effort, but being brutally honest here, you're never going to want to go back to this because of the story. You know, like Pandemic Legacy Season 1, you might be like, oh, the story was great. What is it? Everdell. That one's got a great story as well. Heck, I even kind of like the Charterstone story to a certain extent. There's a lot of games with great story in them. This is not one of them. So don't go into this expecting it to be, amazingly thematic and dripping with theme about the terror of the aliens coming down, because it's not. Also, I want to mention that I'm not going to be mentioning any spoilers in here. I will be talking a little bit about things that could be seen as spoilers, but they're not really. They're stuff that you know there's going to be new gameplay mechanisms in this, because the basic game is dice placement and dice manipulation. That is the name of the game here, and you're going to unlock some cool stuff, but we'll talk more about that in the pros. Continuing on to the cons, this is a very difficult game. Let me say that. Also, I played 9 games of this. I have played the snot out of this over the last few days, but I have not seen everything in this game because there is so much stuff going on in this game, as I'm going to tell you in the pros. But it's a very difficult game, and there's not a great way to make it easier. There's lots of ways to make things more difficult, but I was like, I don't want more difficult. I'm barely winning by the skin of my teeth, and in some instances just cheating and saying, you know what, I'm just going to continue moving on with the story because I need to do the review. That being said, that's another con with the game. The campaign aspect of it feels tacked on. It really does. It's just like, oh, these are kind of interconnected, and that's actually can be seen when you first start opening the different chapters, because you open the different chapters and it's just like, it'll give you some cool stuff, and it'll say, oh, randomly mix stuff up and then pick one of the piles. So it's not like it's a cohesive story they created. It's just, hey, use part A, part B, and part C and mix them in there, kind of Frankenstein-y. I don't want to make it sound like it's a bad thing, because it is. It provides a ton of variability, as I'm about to tell you in the pros, but just go into it. That's the biggest con that I have with this game. This would have got a Bowers Best seal if the story was there, and it's not. And that's a little bit disappointing, because they took the time and effort to add the comic aspect to it, where when you actually get to a new chapter, you're going to get a 1 page of a comic book, then on the back it'll have the rules and the introductions to all the new things, and I like that. And by the end of it, you're just going to keep them in the box, and they will be adding 3 new pages to your rule book, essentially. 3 or 4, excuse me. But any other cons? Because I don't feel like I have many cons with this game. Just the theme. I mean, the theme doesn't come across... let me rephrase that. The story doesn't come across that well. The theme of the alien invasion actually works really well. So I don't want to say that the theme doesn't work, because the theme does. It feels like a Space Invaders board game. But I'm done talking about the cons, because moving on to the pros, I've vegged this. I've played 9 games of this in about 3 days, and I gotta say, I really, really, really like this game. And if you're a solo gamer, this is a no-brainer. Get this game, because as I mentioned in the weird little intro thing, there is just so much going on in this game. So let's start talking about it. This entire stack right here are just different cities that you're going to be able to utilize in the game, and they are double-sided. Now, the double-sided aspect of it is not spectacular, but essentially if you lose with a city, then you flip the city over and their special ability gets better, because thematically they're now like, all right, we got our butts kicked. I almost cussed. I don't want to edit. We got our butts kicked the first time by the aliens. Second time, we're going to be a little bit better prepared. But still, these are different, and you will start to develop favorite one of these. Like, oh, I really like the special ability of Cairo or wherever, because they do play differently. So there's variability. That's like tons of variability. Like if that was the game right there, I'd be like, yes, this is a good game, and I can recommend it to you solo gamers out there, because the gameplay itself is fun. It's easy to learn. It's easy to teach if you want to teach this to other people. In fact, pretty much every step you're going to do is actually going to be on this mothership that goes at the very top, so you can see that information. I like how they did it. One more comment I have with this, it is a bit of a table hog in the vertical sense. Like, it is very tall. So tall it was kind of hard for me to shoot gameplay of it. Also, components. I want to talk about the components. The components are perfectly serviceable. I like the components. I thought they were well done. I like the artwork, but that's hit or miss. You know, that's a very subjective thing. But continuing on. So we have these. Tons of variability right here. So then we have these right here. These are going to be the different stories that you're going to be playing through. The different missions. Think of it like a certain tiny sub-arc in the comic book. So essentially, you know, I don't want to spoil any of them, but each of these is going to make it so the game you're playing is slightly different. It's still going to be Under Falling Skies, the dice manipulation, the dice placement, but each one of these adds its own unique way to play the game, and they're all relatively different. I mean, I was very pleasantly surprised. These don't just feel like, oh, they made some slight tweaks and some slight modifications. Some do. Very few of them do. But most of them feel like, oh, wow, this definitely feels like I'm playing a slightly different version of Under Falling Skies in a good way. So, variability up the yazoo. Variability up the yazoo. And then we have the characters. So these are one time per game special ability uses. And once again, these are double-sided, much like the other ones. Whereas as these characters level up, you know, they will start to get a better special ability. And I will say, you know what? I'm having second thoughts on the theme. I was disappointed in the story. Nothing's going to change the fact that I was disappointed in the story. But the theme does come across really well. And honestly, as I was playing the solo game of it, I try and really get into the solo game. You know, I was like, oh, this person, they're back again for the sequel 2 games later, but now they've got this better special ability. And I was getting into that a little bit. But I feel like that just makes it so disappointing, because I really want the story to be there. I wish they would have just like gotten someone and said, all right, I want you to spew out, 5-page of space-esque fan fiction. I feel like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity, because I feel like that would have just been the absolute icing on this cake, because we're not even done talking about all the stuff that you get in the game, because this is a big stack of the different boards that you're going to be making, because you're actually going to have this huge space area where you're going to see these cool little mini spaceships coming down trying to destroy your city, and as you progress through the different chapters, you are going to get some new spots, some new special abilities for you, some new special abilities for the aliens, and yes, you could say that's a spoiler, but it's like, really? It's a campaign game. You knew you were getting new stuff along the way. But in the end, Under Falling Skies is a really great, I just want to say great. I don't want to, because great is when I give something an 8. This is a really great. I would go 8.8. This is close to being a Bauer's Best Seal. I think if you are a solo gamer, this is one you are going to want to put into your collection. There is an insane amount of variability. It's a fun game. The setup time is not too terrible either. And once you've played through the campaign, it's really just as simple as, pick one, or, well, I don't want to talk, maybe pick one of these, and then pick one of these, and then pick one of these, and go to town, and then you got these things. Really, really cool solo game, and the amount of stuff they added, the variability they added is great variability, because we've all played those games before where it's like, oh, there's like 40 different cards, but they're all kind of carbon copies of each other, like gain 1 extra gold, gain 1 extra ore, do 1 extra thing. These feel different, and I like that, and it's very challenging. Know that going into it, but if you're up for a challenge, or if you want to cheat a little bit, because, hey, heck, it's a solo game. Under Falling Skies is one that I absolutely can recommend. This is going to go on my shelf, and I don't foresee it ever leaving my shelf, to be quite frank with you, because I just really like this solo game. I really like the mechanisms, and I hope that this world is not done. I want more in this world. Maybe a little bit more story, even. But there you go. That is Under Falling Skies from CGE, which definitely needs an app as well. Can we talk about this? This would be a spectacular game to have on a phone or an iPad or something like that, but also a spectacular game to have on your shelf. But that was my review of Under Falling Skies. If it looks like it might be your cup of tea, be sure to check that one out. If you'd like to know why I have 2 copies of the game, well, come no further, my friend. Here's where I'm going to talk about why I have 2 copies of the game, because I just think it's an interesting little behind-the-scenes thing. So then when I sent these out to reviewers, they sent out this version of the game, which is the full version of the game, but they also sent out this version of the game, which is a demo version of the game. And this is the one where you're supposed to show it on film. And actually, I can show you some of the stuff on film of like what the different chapters look like when you get to them, because it's really quite cool. But everything's blurred out, so you can't actually see anything. So this was I believe this is the chapter 1, and you'd open it up and be like, oh, there's a cool there's a comic book here, and then on the back it would tell you what new things are in here, and then you're like, oh, new stuff, new this, cool stuff, and you open it up and you're happy and filled with joy. But that's what that is. I thought that was an interesting thing. And no, that is not common practice. I have never, ever, ever seen anyone else do this with any review copies of the game, but it's a smart idea. I mean, CG is a great company for a reason. They said, oh, and then just donate this to your friendly local game store, because this will still let you play the base game of Under Falling Skies, which, as I said at the beginning, if this was just a base game with, you know, some bare bones stuff, I still think it's a very, very good solo game. But with all that variability, I've already spewed about it. Under Falling Skies, check it out. If you're enjoying what I'm doing, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. Also, consider supporting the Patreon down below, as currently I am panhandling in my basement. And in the comments below, let me know what is your favorite solo game of all time. For me personally, it is a game that's not technically out yet, but I'm still going to do it, and that is Time of Legends Destinies, but they actually changed the name of the game just to Destinies because Mythic Games or Monolith Games or some M company who makes giant miniatures, something or other. I don't know exactly what the backstory is, but they had to take away the Time of Legends, but Destinies! Here, I can grab it right here. Destinies from Lucky Duck Games. It's going to be 1 to 3 players, and wow, this is the best solo game that I've ever played in my own personal life. Very, very cool. But let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite solo game of all time? And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube. And if you're one of our fabulous 15 Freddy 5 finger you're going to get this thing too, extra. More stuff. Oh, God.